I am Brad Keelor. He is Emil Bautista. Find out on Director's Cut next how to make asphalt work below zero.
He's coming out, 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 he's coming out. It's there.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Director's Cut. My name is Brad Keelor. I'm the director of the Geo-Institute. That is why we call this show Director's Cut. Every week, every Wednesday specifically, a different GI member sits down with me and tells stories about their lives. Some of the stories are professional, some are personal, but all of them are fun. If you are not familiar with the Geo-Institute, it is time for you to become so. We are a technical society with about 12,000 members, mostly geotechnical engineers and or geologists, that is part of the American Society of Civil Engineers. If you like what you are about to see today, and I think you will, you should click subscribe, you should click get notifications, and we will let you know every time there's a new video on the YouTube channel. Now, on to our guest this week. Joining me from the Mad City, Madison, Wisconsin, although he is a new employee of the Minnesota Department of Transportation, it is Emil Bautista. Emil, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here, Brad. I'm really honored, and it's very humbling. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Well, don't be too humbled because we need some good answers today. We
Okay.
will hit you with 10
Okay.
questions, the
That sounds
same
good.
way we do with everybody else, and we will start the same way we start with everybody else. Describe your job in 45 seconds.
So I am a main road project engineer. Main road is one of two accelerated advanced pavement testing facilities in the country. It's unique because of it's in the cold weather region. It is operated by the Department of Transportation in Minnesota, MnDOT, and MnDOT is a very progressive Department of Transportation that leads and participates in contracted research with major pavement research partnerships. Those partnerships include the National Road Research Alliance, NRRA. It also includes the National Center for Asphalt Technologies, NCAT, and the Minnesota Local Road Research Board, LRRB. I'm responsible for working on these contracted research projects, providing an active role in the leadership and support of asphalt and pavement preservation initiatives. I provide expert level knowledge on concrete asphalt mixtures, performance testing, construction and pavement performance, and also reviewing incoming data that provide input for future development and implementation of data quality checks. That's kind of mostly my role at Road.
And hopefully, if people joined us at Geo-Congress in Minneapolis, they got to see a little bit of MnDOT in action or stop by the NRRA booth. They had pretty good presence there.
Yeah.
So we ask a lot of fun questions on Director's Cut too, and we're going to start out with one of those. What food do you love to eat in restaurants, but you would never, ever, ever make at home?
Well, I'm going to give you two. First is some of my friends saw this as being kind of impressive because I come from an island. I'm from the Dominican Republic, so I tell people I don't eat fish. I don't eat fish. So people are like, "What? Well, you're from an island. Why don't you eat fish?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't like it. I really don't." But with my family back home, we have been able to go to some restaurants, and they have, my dad and my mom have recommended me some seafood and some fishes like local, and there are kind of they're not as strong, they're more, soft. So I have ended up liking those type of fishes and the way they cook it. But that's something I will never cook at home. And my wife is from Chile. She's a big seafood eater, and I stay away from that. I mean, we don't cook much fish here, but she, all the time we go to a restaurant, she tries to eat that. But I wouldn't cook it here at home. I don't. Yeah, I do that for restaurants only. I don't eat fish at home. The other one, and this one I'm sure Christina will like, is mofongo. Have you heard of mofongo?
Yeah, I knew where you were going to go with that as
Yeah.
soon as you said Christina's name.
Yeah, mofongo is, it's a Caribbean, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic dish, and she'll probably fight with me saying it's Puerto Rico. I'll say it's Dominican. We'll have that discussion at some point. But let's say it's theirs, and we have mango. Mango I can cook at home, but mofongo no. So I will have that all the time at a restaurant. Every time I go home, I make sure I do a couple of technical stops at the place that cooks this mofongo and eat, at least 2 or 3 times I will go to that place in a span of 2 weeks because I just like, some people ask me, oh, it's your last day here. What do you want to do? Oh, I know what I want to do. I need to eat mofongo because I won't see that for a year or so.
Which is okay, though. I think some foods, if you learn to make them yourself, it almost like takes the magic out of it too. Like it's not special anymore because you could just go have it for dinner on a Tuesday night. So you have to have that.
Yeah, and that's the case with mofongo. Every time I go home, and it's I definitely look for that restaurant, and I go several times during my stay there.
Very good. So now we get into the more technical stuff. Well, this first sentence is not super technical. Minnesota and Wisconsin are pretty cold. I don't think that's breaking any news to anybody.
No.
What aspect of pavement design in that part of the country, since that's where you've been based since you came to the States, would be most shocking to an engineer in a warmer climate?
So dealing with frost susceptibility of bases is definitely get shocking for warmer climate. They don't deal with that. They might deal with wet and dry cycles. We deal with freeze and thaw cycles. So how cold the base get, and then once it starts thawing, how soft it will get. We have to deal with seasonal limits, low limits to roads because of that. We have to have roads at a certain point of the year because that froze is thawing. We have to stop or reduce the amount of load that goes into the road. So that's a little different from the approach that maybe people in the warmer climate will take it. Maybe if you have spots where you have wet and dry cycles, it might be a little similar. But in terms when it comes to frost and freeze and thaw cycles, there's actually tests that you perform in the lab and your aggregates to make sure they can meet cold temperatures and they can resist that. And obviously you also need a good drainage for your base. Make sure that the water can flow out so you don't get into those problems of having freezing water in your aggregate and then create expansion, and then when it thaws, then contraction, and then your load it's a soft base now, and then you have to make sure you pay attention to the load.
Have you had to design anything for northern Minnesota or Wisconsin or the Upper Peninsula where it's I'm going to use air quotes here, really cold?
Typically I work a lot in research. I've never gotten that much into design, but definitely, I know of so many. Like I was saying before, too, lots of these projects they have to take into account, how the cycles, how cold you get, how low you go, and then how it comes up. It plays a lot into material and how do you select your materials. From the base and up and to the either the asphalt or concrete layer, it definitely plays a lot into it. There's design has to consider that distresses, because a lot of distresses can form. That's how you kind of measure now your pavement performance or quality of them. You measure distresses, and one of the distresses that we look into is thermal cracking. So you have to definitely take that into account in the design of pavements.
Excellent. So this is sort of a follow-up to that. So you spent 3 years as a QA manager, quality assurance manager. What was the most common mistake or error that you encountered, and what do you think people should be doing to avoid that?
One of the things I noticed, and I don't know if I would call it an error or something like that, but I think a challenge for me is the workforce is changing. And I think everybody in construction is seeing that in many different fields. It's changing a lot. We're having difficulties finding people that want to do the job or the trade, and that creates an issue of having technicians that sometimes don't want to or don't get prepared, don't get trained properly. So that's kind of the challenges we have, being able to train technicians properly, to record, to document, to test materials out in the field. And being able to have that as part of our quality. Sometimes people just go out there with a form and they record everything they need to record in a loose way, and sometimes when they come back to me and I'm sitting looking at the form and like, well, I need a little bit more details into this. I need you to get more into details of what type of material, the classification, stuff like that. So training people, training the workforce is very important. Having difficulties finding a good amount of people that have that desire to do the job that way is definitely a challenge from the quality perspective. We definitely need to work with our workforce, make it more enthusiastic to work in this field, and make sure they can do the work and record things and do the things with a quality standard that will make sure that our infrastructure is built with the proper quality.
And so here's a bonus question for that. Do you think that the weight of trying to train that workforce, do you think that falls more on undergraduate institutions or on the employers themselves, or both, or somebody else?
I think it's a combination. I think, going from my time in school, I didn't learn everything there. I learned a lot, but didn't learn everything. So going out to the field, learning how the field is like, it's definitely something that is important. So that will come more on the side of the employer. I think schools will be able to give you in-house training, maybe expose you a little bit out on the outside. But then when you are with an employer in the industry, that's when you can get your feet wet and kind of go out and swim if you want to. So I think it weighs on both, especially in technical colleges. People that want to pursue some trades, they can go and do that. And I've been trying to get involved in that here with the technical college to kind of help them out to train their technicians better. So by the time they go out to an industry position, maybe they have some certifications that are needed, for them to perform the work. Here at the DOT in Wisconsin, and I'm sure in other DOTs too, you need some sort of certification to perform certain tests. If you are not certified, you are not going to be able to perform work for the state. So it's important that the people that are, decide to go in a trade, in this case construction and construction material testing or geotechnical engineering, they can get the resources at some sort of technical college, and then be able to go out and get trained out in real life field experience by consultants or engineers or contractors, and be able to grow their opportunities from that, be able to get certified and move on from there.
Fantastic. Now, the next question I'm going to change a little bit. Originally, I was going to ask if anything crazy happened during your time in Madison. You came to Madison when you moved to the States, did your master's there, and now you're back there again. But anybody who spent any time in Madison, even if it was a day, knows that, did anything crazy happen there? I think there's really only one answer to that question. So I will rephrase it as this. What is the craziest thing that has happened to you during your time in Madison?
Well, to me, honestly, I'm a good guy, so I don't get into trouble. I don't have that problem. So, but I saw like the football games, the big passion, that the people put into it. It's just crazy. So these are things that I will see, as a teenager on TV. And then I arrive here and it's like, oh, this is real. It is happening. So I was kind of, when we were talking before, I was telling you the story of, I went to my first football game and, I got student tickets. I was excited. Oh, I have my student tickets here. I pay for them right away. And, one of the things related to that, it's like, it's amazing how much people can pay for a student session ticket here. So they pay a lot of money. And in my mind was like, what the hell? It cannot be, It's too much. It's too much money. I wouldn't, even for baseball, that is my sport, I will be hesitant to pay. But people pay it here to go to student session and be standing up, which was the kind of surprising thing for me when I go to this first game and all the students are standing up. And if you sit down, they'll look at you and it's like, what are you doing? It's like, no, so you have to be standing up. And at that time, football game, 4 hours, standing up for 4 hours, obviously you sit down in the break, halftime, but it was really crazy for me to see that. And then after I left the game, kind of wandering around the city and seeing the environment, I have to stop at the hospital on the emergency for a friend. And I saw a guy from Michigan State University that was playing the Badgers at that time. And the guy was kind of, let's call it a little bit tipsy. And, he was beat him up. He had a cut and, had something on his head. I think his cut was around the head. So he had something to stop the bleeding. And I saw the guy and I kind of, whoa, what happened here? I asked the guy, so what happened to you? What, were you at the game? Say, yeah, I was at the game. So what happened? It's like, oh, I got beaten up by some Bayer fans, and I was like, oh my god, it's like now I need for sure to be a Bayer fan here, because if not, I'm gonna get into trouble. So in my mind, that was kind of very crazy, because even being a big fan of a sport, I don't get into those type of situations in which I fight with other people for things like this. I appreciate more the sport and don't really try to get into trouble, but seeing a guy being beaten up just because he was a Michigan State fan here watching the game, it was crazy.
Did you ever stick around after the football games for the fifth quarter? Do they still do that?
I think they still do. I don't think I stayed around at that time. I think, I went to a few games, maybe 3 or 4, in the student session, but I didn't stay around for the fifth quarter. I usually will go out and then walk in State Street, and there was also another type of environment there too, people having fun and enjoying at the bars and like that. So I ended up doing that most of the time.
So for those of you who are saying these guys don't know what they're talking about, football only has 4 quarters. Google Camp Randall Stadium fifth quarter, and you will see what we're talking about.
Yeah, I'm sure they still do it. I'm sure.
It's an experience.
I'm sure they still do it.
So the second question that we ask everybody that comes on Director's Cut, it's important to me because I have to justify doing this show every week somehow. How did you first get involved with ASCE and GI?
So with ASC, when I came here to Madison and did my master's degree, there was a student chapter, and I kind of tried to get involved with them, but I was more focused into doing the research part, so I really didn't got that much involved. But I kind of realized the importance of getting involved with the society, how big the American Society of Civil Engineers is. That's kind of what I started learning about this. So then I moved to Milwaukee to do a PhD, and there's also another chapter for students too, but there was the joint member groups as well, which some of the students that I was a TA for, they were involved, so I will know them, and they will have activities and things getting together. I think one of my first was for a bowling game, so I will go out and go to the bowling games with the young members group. They ended up doing Brewers game too, which I went to a few, and I really enjoy those. But that's kind of the way I started getting involved. And then once I started kind of looking more into the practical side and the geotechnical engineering, I wanted to get involved more, so I talked to the branch president and kind of have the conversation with him. How can I get more involved? I'm a geotechnical background, pavement engineer, so I want to get more involved. And he told me, well, there's this person that is the chair of the Geo-Institute. I think we can get you involved there. So I started there. I was the kind of the co-chair, helping him out, get speakers for our conferences, and then he retired, and I kind of step up to be the chair. So I think I've been the chair probably for the last 2-3 years.
Which is great. We've loved having you. And for those of you watching this will be our little commercial now. We're about to add 2 more chapters to GI, which will bring us to 59. Emil has done a great job the last couple of years as the chair of our Wisconsin chapter. If you don't know who your local chapter is, contact us. We'll be happy to help. We'll point you in the right direction, and we will get you involved with your local group. So now we get back into the fun stuff. I think everybody has one of these. What was your favorite song to sing along to when you were a little kid, like 6 or younger?
I don't remember having just one particular song, but I had a lot of exposure from my parents. My dad, he would listen to this particular radio station in Dominican Republic. They play a lot of 80s music, American 80s music. So I would listen to that a lot. And the music from the 80s became kind of one of my favorite, my wife's too. So I have a lot of knowledge about music from the US in the decades of the 80s. I really like it. I really enjoy. So a lot of those musics with time, I listen now in the station here, and I'm like, I know the lyrics. I can sing it because I learned it, driving, my dad driving us to school. He would put this radio station in the morning. They would do some sort of news, a little bit of information for about, what's going on. But then they would put a lot of 80s music. So I learned a lot of those 80s music, and my dad really liked it too. He didn't know English. He kind of understands a bit of it, but he will also try to sing the songs as well too. So we really enjoy that time of going around town with him listening that particular radio station. I enjoy it so much that when I started driving, my own vehicle, that's the station I will listen to. And here I look for the 80s music station.
And that's a particularly not embarrassing response, though, I have to say, because I had this little toy piano that somebody bought me, and my favorite was "Don't Stop Believing"
Don't
by
stop
Journey.
believing.
And so I wrote my own version that I called Streetlights, and it only had one word. It was basically street lights, and I played that all the time, and that was my favorite song apparently. So yours is a lot less embarrassing than mine.
Yeah, well, I'm very diverse. I listen to a lot of music, but the music from the 80s definitely had, that family influence. And yeah, I mean, I know lots of things that, probably people of our age don't really look into. I mean, groups like Air Supply, Elton John, Billy Joel. Yeah, just so many groups that I listen to in that station, and I'm like, oh, I like this. Even if it's from the 80s, I like it. And, I learned the lyrics.
They get a lot of play in our house too. So you've mentioned a few times that you're from the Dominican Republic, so we have to ask a question about that. In your opinion, what's the most significant geotechnical or civil engineering issue facing the Caribbean countries, or specifically the Dominican Republic, if you want to attack it that way?
Yeah, so I came here at a young age, pretty much after I finished the university, my undergrad. I came here pretty much right away. So my practice back home is kind of very limited, but I also have a brother. My two brothers are also civil engineers, and my dad too. So one of them, it's geotechnical. So we have a lot of conversations around different topics of things that are happening there. And one of the things when I go home and I talk to him is like, what challenges you guys have in your practice. And and like I was saying to you before, I think you have Luis Garcia from Puerto Rico. He kind of touched on some of those too, because it's similar geology. So we definitely have liquefaction issues too. We definitely had karstic formation. We have a lot of caverns. There's actually a building in front of I would guess, we call it the Malecon, which will be like the seashore drive, something like that, So we have a building there since the moment I have knowledge and memory. The building has been there incomplete because people say there's some sort of cavern below it. And they just, decades now, and the building has never been completed. It's a very tall building. And actually, when I was a kid, it was probably one of the tallest, but they could never finish it because of issues with caverns. So we do have, a lot of karstic formations issues, or a significant amount, and we also have cemented sands. We tend to have situations and problems with slope stability in cemented sands as well.
Well, that is good though. So we got to ask one more about Madison here before we get into the real talk, and we have a baseball question. So that everybody watching who hates sports, that's coming up at the end. So when you came to Madison for grad school, what was the most pleasant surprise about being there? What was the happiest surprise that you encountered?
Diversity here, it's noticeable. It's very big, and obviously in the States too. But in Madison, I was able to meet people from all over the world. I work with people from many countries, and now they have returned to their country, so I get in contact with them. I haven't been able to travel much, but I know when I do, I have a lot of people in different places that I can go and visit. So that was a very pleasant thing to see how many people from different cultures and countries could get along and talk and do work, and also be friends, after work time. The other thing that impacted me a lot here too was the weather in terms of the seasons. Back home, you don't have these big changes in the seasons. It's either very, very hot or just, way more hot than that. It's just extremely hot and humid. You don't get that change in, the trees don't change leaves. You don't get that type of deal, and obviously don't get snow, that's for sure. So here I was able to see the difference in between the seasons and appreciate that, appreciate how beautiful fall can be and with the colors, and then enjoy when you are deep in the cold weather, just hoping, okay, I want to get to spring and then get to summer. Once you get to summer, it's like, oh, this is, although for me it's kind of short here. That's my complaint. It's not that it's too cold. It's just that it's just for too long. If it was shorter, it would be great, but it's too long. So learning to appreciate summertime was something that I learned here. So that was very pleasant to do.
So we have to close with a baseball question. And that is going to be, who are your top 5 favorite Dominican baseball players of all time? Now, I feel like we have to have a disclaimer at the beginning of this answer here. You have sort of a well-known relative.
I do.
Who is probably going to be one of your answers to this question. So
yeah.
Maybe we should get that out of the way first. So go ahead.
So I'm related to Jose Bautista, Joey Bats. They play for the Toronto Blue Jays and other teams too, but the Blue Jays were his main team. He hit many home runs. He was a very fierce hitter through those, I would say, 2010, 2016. In 2010 and 2011, he had I think 50 plus home runs in an era after the PED time. So I definitely had a lot of fun because he will come around the Midwest, although his team was on the East Coast. He will come around the Midwest, and I always will go and see him play and spend time with him after the game. So definitely that has to be the top favorite player for me. That's number one. The other ones, you for sure know Pedro Martinez. It's for me, I'm blessed to be born in this age of being able to watch him play. I am a big fan of Pedro. Small guy. People didn't really thought he was going to make it. He didn't take. He had the capacity, but he did, and he became big. So watching him play, was one of the biggest pleasures I have. Also, Albert Pujols, probably my favorite player. Also, too, those first 10 years of him playing baseball, I think are unmatched in the sport. Obviously, the last 10, not the best, but the first 10, watching him play, unbelievable for me. Very proud that he is from the Dominican Republic. The other player I will mention is Juan Marichal. I don't know if you heard of Juan Marichal. Juan Marichal is.
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask if you were gonna pick any old guys.
Yeah, Juan Marichal for sure. Juan Marichal is the top guy. He's our first Hall of Famer, and I think it was 1983, just a year before I was born. So he is very well known, and I get into. Obviously, never saw him play, but I obviously hear the stories from my dad, and and he talks to me about him and other people, and I have read stories in the newspaper. Something impressive for baseball now. You don't got a lot of guys that do complete games, and if you look at Marichal's numbers, Marichal has more complete games than wins. So, and this is a guy with 200 plus wins, and he has more complete games. So he pitched game to lose complete games. Which is impressive. Right now, you don't have a lot of pitchers pitching, complete games. It's unheard of now. It's not the right way, But Marichal will pitch complete games, and I remember a story from him before he came to the majors. He would play, I think, some amateur baseball, and sometimes he would play 2 games back to back, 9-inning games, and pitch them. Nowadays it's impossible to do, but pitchers at that time, they will do that. So Marichal definitely has kind of a big spot in my favorite list for sure. The other ones, sometimes I don't want to get into a lot of the details because some of them might be related to performance enhancing and things like that. But Sammy Sosa, obviously, when he was competing with Maguire, it was huge for us, and me and my brothers and my dad, watching him home runs, and we were also, very, very proud of him, and you have also Manny Ramirez too, one of the best hitter in the games. You have also Big Papi, David Ortiz, well known all over around. Those kind of players, they definitely, I'm blessed to be born this time to watch them play because I did enjoy that a lot.
So I won't do my own top 5 list here, but a couple of comments is I feel the same way as you about Marichal, right? Even though I never got to see him play live, I was a pitcher, and seeing guys like him. And Vita Blue was the other guy I never got to see play, who I always thought of. I wanted to be like those guys. I was like, because they threw hard, they pitched a ton of innings. I was like, that should be the model for me out on the mound. I'm glad you got to David Ortiz, because I feel like I hated the Red Sox. I have hated the Red Sox my whole life, but I really, really like David Ortiz.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that comes from his time with the Twins before he went to the Red Sox or what it was. One other old guy I wanted to ask you about, because I always felt like he was really overlooked between Ozzie Smith and Alan Trammell and Cal Ripken in the 80s, was Tony Fernandez.
Cabeza Fernandez.
Tony Fernandez was one of my favorites when I was a kid.
Yeah. When I was watching baseball as a kid, for sure he was one player to watch. He played for the Blue Jays as well too, and I think he won the World Series then. And I was telling you, my dad he was the one who brought us to this sport and loved the sport. He used to play baseball as a kid. He was really good, and he played shortstop. So we would pay a lot of attention to Tony Fernandez. And my dad, obviously, he always made us watch game for him. We had the pleasure of seeing him play winter ball in the Dominican Republic too. So we will go there and watch him play live. Now it's a little different. Players, especially because of all the money involved, they don't want to go down there and play anymore. But we watched a lot of players play there. Tony Fernandez was one of them. We watched Alex Rodriguez, his first, 93, 94. He went and played some games there. I saw him there for the first time. So lots of big names that you might hear, now or that past in that part of the past. They play winter ball in the Dominican Republic, and maybe in the Caribbean for sure, maybe Puerto Rico or Venezuela and Mexico.
But that watching Tony Fernandez hit triples, I think that was my favorite, because that was kind of a lost art by that point, and he was one of the few guys who could really consistently hit triples.
Yeah.
And I thought that it was fantastic to watch him run the bases. He was amazing to watch. So you made it through all the questions, Emil. Thank you. This was fantastic, and I'm sorry for our viewers that we can't turn this into a 3-hour baseball show. Otherwise, that's where we were going to go. This is the second to last Director's Cut for the season before we take our summer break. So thanks for tuning in. Again, if you liked what you saw, subscribe, get notifications. You will know every time we post something to the channel, which is frequently. So Emil, thanks again for being here today.
Oh, thanks to you. It's a pleasure for me to be here. And always anything you guys need from me. I want to get more involved with the GI. It's a great thing that, I'm honored to be a member. It's just great. It's really good. And you guys, like we were talking before, it's a diverse group, and it's just great. It's great to be able to get to know people from different places in the world or different places in the United States that like and enjoy what you do. They call it here play with dirt or things like that. But it's great. It's definitely great. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we appreciate it, and thanks for your thoughtful answers and for all the stuff you've done for GI over the years. And we will see all of you viewers next week.